Okay, so we've started. We're going to read some quotes by Srila Prabhupada on prayer. We've done some talks on prayer. I'm going to read some quotes from Srila Prabhupada on prayer, and we've already done some discussions on prayer, and those are going to be uploaded. And I want to read some things that we haven't yet discussed. We also did a workshop. So I want to. There is a document I'm looking for, which has quotes by Srila Prabhupada on prayer, and I have it on my computer, and I'm not sure the name of it, so let me. I have to find it, which is not easy. And my computer is working like a sloth. You know what a sloth is? I guess it doesn't like Alachua. We just returned to Alachua, and now my computer is slothing for some reason. Like, really slothing. Okay, so the main obstacle we have now is for me to find the file. So there's a file of quotes of Srila Prabhupada, and I didn't title it quotes, so you just have to bear with me for a moment, because I didn't have time to prepare. And my computer just is like, wow, it is really slow. It's waking up. I'm just going to have to open various files to see where it is. I did not name it properly. I don't see it. Oh well, I have another file here. Maybe Krishna wants me to talk about something else. This is an interesting topic. All right, we'll talk about something else, because I'm going to need time to find that file. And I don't have it. And there's a topic that I didn't talk about in the forgiveness workshop, which we can talk about now. How does that sound? It's very beneficial. I'm opening up a Word file. You can see how long it's taking. There's something wrong with my computer. It's still waking up. You know how computers, sometimes they just wake up forever? So it's trying to upload. Anyway, one of the topics, or one of the main themes in the workshop I do on prayer is to isolate what's important for you. Because you don't just want to pray for anything, but you want to pray for something that's essentially important. And then the other aspect of that is, once you find it, then you want to commit to what you're praying for. So you don't want to use prayer as a crutch, if you know what I mean. It's like you can use prayer as a crutch prayer in a sense is a crutch, but I'm speaking of a crutch in a negative sense. You could use prayer in a negative sense, meaning you're not really going to make an effort to do anything, but you're just going to pray, and you're going to depend on Krishna, which is what you should do, or what we should do. But you're going to depend on Krishna in a way that's coming more from the mode of ignorance than the mode of goodness. So you're going to depend on Krishna without being deeply motivated to achieve what it is you want to achieve. So we shouldn't use prayer because we're so unmotivated that we won't make the effort. We use prayer because it's something which is difficult for us, right? Maybe my computer's trying to close. Okay. Oh, the file came up. Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about today, how to connect with what's important for us, and then how to connect in a way which we take what's important and then that becomes vitalized or energized, so we don't use prayer as a kind of in a negative way, so it backfires. So we're praying for something that, number one, isn't essentially important, and therefore we're not motivated. Or we're not motivated because it's difficult, and we don't do anything about it, and we're hoping that through prayer everything will magically happen, which is partially true, but it's not fully true, because Yetamam Prapanjante, Krishna of course wants to see what we do, right? It's not just about what we want, it's about what we're supposed to do. Okay, I have a realization now. There's a clock in the background ticking, and that tick, tick, tick is going to be picked up on this recording. So, bear with me for a moment. I'm going to de-tick the clock, untick it. In this lifetime, I have de-ticked many clocks, because for some reason, when I try to sleep and the clock goes tick, 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 keeps me awake. I don't know. I can't tell you why, because other things don't keep me awake. But clicking talks, ticking clocks, and snoring people keep me awake. And because I have experience with recording, and I always like to edit my recordings that I put up online, I'm very aware of background noise. Sometimes we record with our fans, sometimes there are buses outside, honking horns, sometimes there are air conditioners. And you hear in the background, it's hard to hear me because there's so much background noise, so I'm conscious of that. Okay, so here's the first statement. Turn your shoulds into musts. You see, your prayer won't have as much power if it's a should as opposed to a must, because there's a difference between a should and a must. Like you say, I should do this. Okay, I should. Let's use the example of I should chant good rounds. Or even you could use the example as I should chant 16 rounds. Let's say I'm not chanting 16 rounds. I should chant 16 rounds, or I should chant 16 good rounds, or whatever your number is, I should chant 8 rounds. Generally, when we use the word should, it's in a disempowering way. It's an acknowledgement of something that I should do that I'm not doing, or I perhaps am doing, but I'm not inspired to do. So I'm doing it more out of duty than a real connection deeply as something that I want to do, or something, even I may not want to do it, but something deeply I want to achieve, and therefore I should do what I have to do. I want to do what I have to do to achieve it. Where the should removes you a bit from that inspiration and connection to more of, I know it's the right thing, but I don't feel like it. That's usually what should means. I know this is the best thing, but I'm not yet on that level of feeling it. I don't feel like I really want to do it. And one of the most interesting things about feeling is that if you don't feel something, even if you know it, your feelings are what motivate. Most people are motivated more by feeling than by knowledge. Now, we always say it's better to learn by hearing and then act, right? Isn't that what we say? Sometimes you understand something with your head, but you just don't feel like it. I know what you're saying is true, but I don't feel it. And then we tend to act, most of us will tend to act based on our feelings, right? Recently I read something about low self-esteem. And it made the same point that you may know that there's no reason for you to have low self-esteem, that you are an intelligent person, a capable person, and people like you and so forth. But you might not feel like that. You may understand it, but you don't feel it, but you feel stupid or whatever you feel that disempowers you to live your full potential. That's called low self-esteem, a belief that you're less than you actually are. So you understand with your head that you are capable, but your heart, your feeling is that you're not, and so you tend to act on your feeling. Does that make sense? Yes. It's interesting, isn't it, when you think about it? Recently, Goloka Prabhu asked me, what controls the mind? So I said the intelligence controls the mind, but it's also affected by feeling, because even the mind is controlled, so I'm focused on what I should do, but if I don't feel like doing it, there can be a problem, because feelings are very powerful, and feelings tend to motivate us unless we're very disciplined. We act entirely based on what we know, intelligence, and most people don't. It'd be good if we did, but we don't. But anyway, in regards to this discussion about prayer, you could understand that if you're praying for something which is a should, it may not have the power of a must. So what we want to do to empower our prayers is turn the shoulds into musts. You understand? So like, I know I should chant 16 rounds, but it's when the should is the emotion, it may not happen, or it's likely it won't happen, or it won't happen quickly. But if the emotion is I must, then with the must you start doing something about it. And with the must, the prayer has more power, has more feeling to it, has more urgency. So you can understand that if your prayers are shoulds, yeah, Krishna, please help me chant good rounds, right? But if, like for example, if you've gone to a japa workshop or a japa retreat, when you come back from the japa retreat, you may have come in with I should chant good rounds, which is why you went. But you come out, I must chant good rounds. That's what happens. There's a transition at a japa workshop from I should to an I must. And then if you've ever been in that situation, whether it's with japa or anything else, and you come to the I must, and then you begin praying from that position of I must, then you'll remember that those prayers were very heartfelt and very, very urgent, and very much, this has to happen. Krishna, please, it has to happen. Please help me. So you understand that if your prayer lacks power, lacks in a strong intention, why would Krishna be inclined to reciprocate with that prayer? Hold on, I'm going to turn on the chat in case you have any comments or questions. Why would Krishna be inclined to reciprocate with a prayer which lacks power? So we want to isolate what we know is right, what we know we should be doing, and we want to turn the shoulds into must, that this is something that has to happen in my life. And of course you're probably asking, how? Well, let's discuss how we can turn a should into a must, because we have lots of shoulds in our books, right? And if we can learn how to turn shoulds into musts, that's going to be an amazing tool to have. Now, you might say, well, just by executing Krishna consciousness, the shoulds will turn into must. It's true, some will, but not all, and not all as soon as we would like them to, or as soon as they should. That wasn't a pun, but it came out that way. Okay. life will pay for whatever price you ask for it. In other words, you're going to get what you ask. And one problem is maybe there is a should. It's not yet a must. Maybe I won't even ask for the I should because it's not a must. And maybe sometimes you'll see that unless it becomes a must, you don't ask for it. There may be other reasons you don't ask for it. Whatever the reasons are, generally, if we're not asking, it means we're not desiring strongly enough. Why wouldn't we ask Krishna for something? This is one reason, because we really don't care enough to have it, so we don't ask. If you're not asking every day, Krishna, I want to be a pure devotee. When you're chanting your rounds, if you're not thinking, I just want to be pure, 100% pure, maybe it means you don't want to be. Maybe it means you could even be afraid of being pure. Maybe you think it's not possible, or maybe you think you're not worthy of being pure. These are material considerations, and we don't want to bring too many material considerations into our prayers because it will limit us. And one of the major aspects of praying is specifically to pray for those things which are difficult for us, which may come in these categories of I don't deserve it, I'm not qualified for it, I don't know how to do it. Or even if it's a should, we can pray to Krishna, I know I should chant 16 rounds, so I'm praying to you to make the should a must. You can even do that. So whatever is there within your heart, you will pray for. And the more it's in your heart, the more intensely you'll pray. And the more intensely you pray, the more likely Krishna is to reciprocate, because he does reciprocate with the intensity, doesn't he? I mean, he says he does, if you believe what Krishna says. And then you accept it. And we all have that experience in our life. If we're casual in our attitude in Krishna consciousness, then our life becomes casual. Our realizations become casual. Not deep, not frequent. Okay, so we said life will pay you for whatever price you ask. Life will pay for whatever price you ask for it. Who was it? One person said, sometimes, there's a couple of people that have made note of things that sometimes we would rather accept what we don't want without struggle than struggle to achieve what we do want. It's like the idea of the comfort zone. Because the comfort zone actually is the place where you have what you really don't want. I mean, you may have what you want, but the things you really want in your life are outside the comfort zone. But some people are more comfortable having what they don't want because going outside the comfort zone is difficult. But the whole point of prayer is that you see things which are outside your comfort zone. That's what you pray for. But the point I'm making here is if you don't really want them, you either won't pray for them or you won't pray with much intensity. And if you don't pray with intensity, then you're actually you're reinforcing to yourself that these things are either not important, too difficult to achieve, you don't know how to achieve them, you don't feel worthy of achieving them, you feel bad praying for them because you're a bad devotee, whatever it is, you see. So it's like sometimes problems are circular in that we reinforce them. Like you have a problem, and by not praying, you're reinforcing maybe the idea that you don't deserve it or you can't achieve it. And so prayer is meant to kind of go against the law of gravity. It's meant to transcend or interfere with those patterns of thinking that I don't deserve it, I can't do it, I'm not ready for it, etc. Now, if you're not ready for it, you can pray to be ready for it. If you don't think you have the qualification to do it, you could pray for the qualification. It's not that prayers have to be only mystical and somehow or other Krishna bring in all the miracles in my life to make something happen. You could pray just very practically, please give me abilities and intelligence to execute the service I have, or give me the abilities and intelligence and creativity to expand the service that I have to a level in which I think I'm incapable of achieving. So that's the idea of prayer. We, in our prayer workshop, we had talked a little bit about this concept of gap, the gap between where we are and the gap between our goals, be they immediate goals or be they long-term goals to be completely Krishna conscious, be pure devotees. So prayer is a gap filler, or it's meant to be a gap filler. So, in a sense, you can pray for anything. But Prabhupada, he did say first deserve, then desire. So if it's something you feel you don't deserve because you lack the qualification, you can pray for the qualification to be able to pray for this. You could pray for the qualification so that you would be able to deserve to pray for these things or deserve to achieve these things. So whatever the case may be, if it's just something on a practical level that you want to achieve in your service that you feel incapable of achieving, you can pray, Krishna, please fill in the gap with intelligence, energy, ability, send people that can help me, things like this. Clarity, so I understand better what I want to do, or I understand better how to do it. So don't be afraid to pray for things which are beyond you, because that's actually what prayer is about. It's praying for that which seems a little bit impossible. It's also about praying for higher levels or more advanced levels of Krishna consciousness than you feel capable of. If you understand that your advancement, our advancement in Krishna consciousness is coming, it's coming by Krishna's mercy. It's not just coming from your own endeavor. Then you feel more confident in praying to Krishna to give you realizations, or to very high realizations, or to help you advance to higher levels of Krishna consciousness than you think you're capable of achieving, because it's true, we're not capable of achieving higher levels on our own. It happens through mercy. We make efforts, and we always have to make efforts, and that gap between effort and achievement, that's what we're praying for. On my own, I see I can go so far, but the goal of Krishna consciousness is much farther, is much higher than what I can achieve on my own. So then prayer comes in, Krishna, I'm here, and I want to be here. To get my hands on the screen. Yeah. Krishna, I'm here. Oh, let me move them back. And I want to be here. And so this gap right here, right? There's the gap. No. This is fun doing this, isn't it? Okay. Yeah, there's a gap right there. I'm trying to get it out of the way of my head. When you're looking at something, it's backwards. So my hand goes right, and then it goes left on the screen. So, yeah, there's a gap there. This is where I am, this is where I want to be, and this is where prayer takes you there. So prayer it's based on faith that it's not my ability which enables me to achieve something, but my effort and intention then attract Krishna, who then, by his mercy, makes up for what I lack. Ananyas chintayam tamam ye janam prayopasate. Tesham nitya abhyuktanam yogakshema viham. In Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter, Krishna says, famously, you've probably heard the verse, I preserve what you have and I carry what you lack. What's missing, I will bring to you. If you can't get it yourself, you can get it from Krishna, right? So you ask Krishna to give you what's missing. And as Krishna sees you're capable of receiving what's missing, then he gives you. Now, you have to understand, sometimes Krishna doesn't give because he doesn't feel we're capable of receiving. So sometimes we can pray, Krishna, make me capable of receiving. I don't feel qualified even to receive. Krishna, I would like to achieve this higher level of Krishna consciousness. Please make me capable of receiving. But all this discussion that we're having now are details are based around this topic that we're talking about today of turning shoulds into must. So let's read a little further. A must is very specific. A should can be very general. So prayers can be very specific. I used to joke with my daughter. When she was young, she'd say, almost sounded like Pacific. You have to be very Pacific. You have to be very specific. You can be Pacific also. Krishna Pacific, Krishna West. Pacific is West. So, be specific, don't be general. Be clear about what it is you're praying for. So the more specific, the better. Krishna, I want to chant 16 rounds. What kind of round? I want to chant 16 good rounds. What? I want to chant 16 good rounds before such and such a time on the weekdays and before such and such a time on the weekends. Be more specific, because it also helps you understand what it is you want. Because whatever you're praying for, you have to endeavor for, right? You have to endeavor for what it is you're praying for. So you have to know, be as specific as possible, so then you can endeavor for that. Okay, I want to chant 16 good rounds, sitting in one place before 7 p.m. Before 7 a.m. every day. Okay, that's a good one. You can pray for that, but now you make the effort for that because it's clear, as opposed to, Krishna, I want to chant 16 rounds. Okay, that's general. 16 good rounds in this place by this time. With prayer, with feeling, whatever it is, you add specifics. How's that? The idea about specifics is it causes you to focus on the specifics of what you want, right? Because if you get too general, then you're not really focused on anything, right? You're just general. So if you're specific, then your brain gets specific. It's easier to say Pacific than specific. Your brain gets specific, and your focus becomes clear. So that's important, right? And I think also the more specific you get, the more chance there is that the should becomes a must. Because now you know what it is you must. And there's going to be more energy in specifics than in generals. I want to be a good devotee. Okay, that's a broad general. Well, how? Well, I want to rise at this time. I want to achieve this in my service. I want to read an hour a day. These things become more clear and more likely to be a must than I want to be a good devotee. Okay, I think generally that's true, the way our psychology works. Okay, so once you're specific, now what we do, we need reasons for wanting what it is we want. And that's where the why comes in. And I've talked about this before, but I think it's very profound. If you don't have enough reasons why you want something, compelling reasons, then you tend to become slack, casual, or worse, lazy. Because we're not really motivated by something unless there's a reason. Why should I, eat? You tell a child, eat healthy. Children generally don't like to eat healthy. Older people like to eat healthy because they have more knowledge. Based on experience, their body's falling apart slowly. So they have a lot of impetus to eat healthy. There's a strong why. Well, if I eat healthy, I'll have more energy. Well, kids have tons of energy. If I eat healthy, these pains will go away. Well, kids don't have pains, right? So the why is not strong unless you would educate the kid and convince them, if you eat healthy, then when you're older, like me, you won't have the pains that I have. You won't have the lack of energy that I have, because I didn't eat healthy when I was young. So maybe you could convince a teenager why eating healthy is really important. And if you could convince them of the why, then they would do it. Then those should becomes must. Oh, I must do this. And you see that with a lot of young people are very health conscious because they've educated themselves enough. And it may be ecological also. It may be moral. I don't want to eat animals. I don't want to destroy the earth. I don't want to fund major corporations. I want to buy local and like that. I just found out today an interesting fact. My daughter said that if you stop eating meat, you will save 400 animals a year because that's how many animals the average person eats per year. Is that amazing? Or how many lives would be saved? I don't know the details of the figure. But let's just take that as an example. That if I stop eating meat, and you can tell this to people, you will save the lives of 400 animals. And let's say you're 20 now and you live for 50 years. Wow, you would save the lives of 20,000 animals in your life. That's a lot. That is enough animals to fill up a stadium. And just picture that by being vegetarian, you would save the lives of 20,000 animals. Now that could be a big enough why for some people to become vegetarian. People who are, I know I should become a vegetarian. I heard it's healthy. I heard it's better for the environment. But I really like my hamburgers. Or I really like my meat. That's a common argument, isn't it? You hear it all the time. Now, if you can give them enough whys, they become motivated. And say, that's it. I can't do it anymore. Right? So whys are, when I've said before that a lot of times we're not lazy. It's not that we're not motivated. It's not, some people by nature are lazy. And you might think you're a lazy person. But most likely, you're not as lazy as you are without a why. You're just not motivated. You don't have enough information or enough reason to do something. So the whys are what takes the I shoulds to I must. So whys are important. So I've said this other point, I believe I've said this before, but if you study Prabhupada's books, that's where all the whys come from. And I find a lot of devotees who don't read Prabhupada's books regularly, they have problems being motivated, and we're conditioned. So conditioning naturally causes us to act in ways which we've been habituated to for lifetimes. And so you really need a why to overcome conditioning. And oftentimes we find the devotees that feel very much controlled by their conditioning, or the question I ask them is, are you reading? When someone writes me a letter and says, I'm having difficulty finding motivation, I will ask them, do you read Prabhupada's books every day? And in most cases they'll say no. And I say, well, that's a major reason why you're not motivated, because where are you going to get the motivation to do austerity if you don't read why you should do austerity? If it's not always on the forefront of your mind, the benefits of austerity, the results of austerity, how it purifies your heart. If your heart's purified, you come closer to Krishna. You fulfill the ultimate hankering of your heart and the ultimate goal of life. Okay, now, Prabhupada said that by reading his books, people would become naturally inclined to austerity. If they're going to be inclined to austerity, they're going to be inclined to austerity from reading his books, by hearing why austerity is important. And otherwise, most people, unless they're yogis from their past life, or they have a certain nature to be austere, are not that inclined to austerity. But you can learn to love austerity. You can learn to love Ekadasi. You can learn to love fasting. You can learn to love chant extra rounds. You can learn to love to refrain from doing certain things because of the effect it has on you. And when you understand and experience this effect, then the why becomes very powerful. And then when the why is powerful, the should becomes a must. I have to do this. When you do something that's so valuable to you, then you say something like, I have to do this. This is my life. This is my breath. This is what keeps me going. So it's no longer a should. If you say that, it keeps you going. It's your life. It's your soul. It's a must. It's not a should. So this is a really important point that we also talked about this in terms of finding Dharma, that sometimes it's not that you're lazy and it's not that you're not motivated. It's just that you haven't found something to do that connects with your nature. Or you're doing something which is not connected with your nature, and therefore it doesn't inspire you. And we all know if we're doing something we really don't like, we have very little energy for it. And if we're doing something we really like, we have a lot of energy for it, right? So finding what inspires you is a very important aspect of being motivated. It's a psychological reality. And Bhagavad Gita is all about it. Your nature. Act according to your nature. That's who you are. That's what inspires you. That's what you're made of. Just the other day I was in London, and I was talking to a devotee, and he had organized a program, and he had put somebody in charge. And when he showed up at the program, the whole thing was a mess. And the person was he just was neglectful of his duties and a poor organizer. And so he was saying that this devotee is an artist, he's creative, he's an actor and so forth. And if you give him service in that field, he'll just work on it day and night, and he's really good at it. But this he didn't work on. It's not his nature to manage. So you can see that inspiration also often comes from nature. And then when you're engaged in something according to your nature, a lot of the I must do this starts to come up, because you realize this is who you are, and if it's who you are, then it's what you must be doing, right? Does that make sense? You'll feel that when you're connected to something that's your nature, that you'll feel that this is the special thing I can do. Like, for example, often I have opportunities, or within the preaching work, different things, we have to do different things. And oftentimes I think, do I really need to do this? Because sometimes I look at something and I think, anybody can do it. Now, sometimes I'll do it just because of convenience, because I have to email somebody, then ask them to do it and explain them how to do it. And practically, by the time I do that, and certainly by the time they get back to me, and by the time they understand it, I could have just done it in the same amount of time or less. So sometimes I'll do that. But in other cases, I'll look at certain service and I'll say, why am I doing this? Anybody can do this. But I can do things not everybody else can do. And those are the things that I should work on. And then they become the must, because I start to feel like, well, this is what I must do because others can't do it. Right? And I'm sure you have many musts, right? So the question we have for you is, what's your why? Because if you don't have a why, how is your prayer going to have the energy of a must? But when the why is clear, the why is the motive, right? If you don't have enough reasons, you're not going to make it happen, right? Now, a nice meditation, and it's a little morbid, probably not morbid, but it's negative, but it has a positive result. And I think it's a very powerful meditation. We were initially saying that sometimes we don't pray for what it is we really should be praying for. And we'll have different reasons. Maybe we just think it's too difficult. We're afraid of it. It's too much surrender. We don't deserve it. It's not a must, and so forth. So, here's a nice meditation. Think of something that you feel is important for you to achieve. And it could be, by achievement, it could be something positive, to obtain something, or it could be something where you want to remove a negative. I need to overcome my pride. It's really pulling me down, or I need to overcome my sex desire, or I need to overcome my attachment to this, or I'm still addicted to tea or coffee, or something that's getting in the way. Think of that thing that you need to overcome. Okay? Something that's really important for you to overcome. Something that you feel is really getting in the way. That if it wasn't there, I would be much better off in Krishna consciousness. Or if I could achieve this, whatever it is I want to achieve, or I need to achieve, or I should achieve, if I achieve it, it'll make a huge difference in my Krishna consciousness. achieve. Now, once you isolate that, whatever it is, that what you need to achieve, or that which is a burden and a block, a major burden and a major block to your Krishna consciousness. Of course, there could be many things, but for the sake of this example, just think of one thing, some major thing. Like most people will say pride, ego, lust, greed, envy. One of these, if it's very strong, is a real impediment. And most people will say something like, what I need to achieve is, more regulation, better japa. I need to hear more, pray more in my japa, like that. They're just common examples, so I'll use those for this discussion. Now, imagine 5 years from now, we're talking, and that same impediment is still there to the same degree and intensity that it is today, or that which you want to achieve, you are as far from it now being 5 years later, as you were 5 years ago, 5 years actually being now, in our imagination. So we imagine 5 years from now, I'm as far from achieving my goal as I was 5 years ago. Now imagine that to be 10 years. 10 years I'm carrying this obstacle with me. I'm not dealing with it. It's still a should, it's not a must. It hasn't become a must yet, and it's 10 years. So because it hasn't become a must, for 10 years I'm carrying this problem with me. I still have this nature that I haven't controlled, and for 10 years I've had bad relationships because I get angry at people, I'm intolerant, I'm controlling, whatever it might be, whatever your obstacle might be. And now, for 10 years I've been creating bad relationships. For 10 years I haven't been as successful as I need to be in relationships to achieve all the goals that I would like to achieve. Now imagine 20 years. For 20 years I have this same problem. I've neglected it. I haven't made it a must. I haven't dealt with it in the way it should be. Obviously, meditating on that it's painful to think like this. And why am I doing this? Because sometimes the should becomes a must when we realize that what we're carrying with us is so damaging. It's so detrimental. It's so polluting and so miserable. But we've neglected to confront that reality. We've kind of just ignored it. It's something that's out of our comfort zone, or something that's too difficult to deal with, and so forth. And once you confront it, because you know that I've told you many times, when you have problems, confront them. So when you confront it, what if I go in my life with this anartha another 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? What if I take it to my deathbed? You confront how much your life would be negatively affected by that, and how you would be personally burdened by that, and how that negativity would eat away at your consciousness and your peace of mind and your state of happiness. That meditation can turn the should to a must. And a lot of times, that may be the only way. It's like we say we learn by experience, or we learn by hearing. So enough bad experience becomes a motivator. So this is kind of like, this exercise allows you to have a bad experience without having it, by imagining what it would be like. Let's say you have a difficult time in your relationship with your husband or wife, and you imagine, I have to live this way for another 20 years, and you think, I can't live this way. I just can't live this way. At the same time, you're dutiful. You don't want to get divorced. That can be an impetus for you to come to make a decision. I have to change. Something has to change. I have to change the way I'm dealing with my spouse. I have to do something different. Otherwise, this relationship will remain, or most likely it will get worse. Remain as it is, which isn't good, or it will get worse. And just that simple meditation has turned many people around. No, I can't continue like this. A lot of times life is like that. It just happens through experience. Over and over and over again, the same bad experience. And then at one point you say, okay, that's it. I can't continue like this. But I don't think it's necessary always, and it's certainly not, it's not the best thing that we have to experience suffering over and over again before we change. But just project in the future. That's a symptom of intelligence. That when you use intelligence, you project in the future to look at outcomes. Present actions, what outcomes will they result in the future? And by using your intelligence that way, it can become a great motivating factor to get from I should to I must. To get that why. Now I know why. Because if I live 10 years like this, it's going to be horrible. The consequences will be horrible on the people around me, on the situations and projects I work in, and on myself, physically, emotionally, spiritually, every way. And if something needs to be, just like sometimes in the japa workshop, when we help people chant better rounds, then I say, now, you chanted some good rounds today. And they'll agree. And I said, well, how do you think your life would be if you chanted these rounds every day? And of course, everyone's very excited, so it'd be amazing. And what will your life be if you chant bad rounds every day? And then everybody says, well, it'll kind of be the way it's been. Or not very good, of course. Or usually when I would say something like that, they would kind of just make a face like, oh no, that would be really bad. But that helps us by confronting a reality of what we're doing and confronting the reality of how better it would be if we change, right? Does that make sense? It's another way of strengthening the why, the motivation. We have to be motivated. And we have to be motivated to follow regulative principles. We have to be motivated to chant our rounds. We have to be motivated to do austerity. So there has to be a why that's really, really strong. Why get up early in the morning? I'd rather be in bed. Why do devotees get out of bed early in the morning? Because it's the best time to do their sadhana. And so they're motivated. Because the sadhana produces the results they want. But then, when the should becomes a must, then the next stage of the must then becomes a lifestyle. It becomes integrated. The must becomes what's part of you. So it's not even, at that point, it's not even a conscious must. It's just what you do. You don't even think about it. It's programmed behavior. So the should to the must to program behavior. And we were saying earlier, just to remind you of the context of this conversation, if we don't get the should to the must, then the prayers don't have the intensity. Because the should is more in the head, and the must is more in the heart, and prayer is from the heart. So prayers are all about feeling. Oh Krishna, oh Gurudev, give me a drop of mercy. I need this. I can't go on without your mercy. That's all feeling. That's what prayer is all about. So if prayer is just I should, it lacks that power of feeling. Okay? Hold on a second. Okay, here's another nice meditation, and we did this in our forgiveness workshop. But let's just throw this out now. Another nice meditation is you meditate on what it is you want, either something positive or something that you don't want. Overcoming an anartha, you meditate on it, right? Focus on it. Now you begin to imagine, what would it be like if I actually achieved that? And try to feel that, just how it would be. Imagine that you achieve that position. You have no envy anymore. You're just totally supportive. Anyone you're envious of now, you just support them. And you have no lust. All your relationships with the opposite sex are just very pure. There's nothing you're trying to get from them. There's no exploitation. You have no greed. You're satisfied with what you have. Whatever it is that you want to achieve, or you're chanting purely every day, you're studying Prabhupada's books every day, whatever it is that you really feel you need to pray for, imagine you achieved it, and just try to enter into what you might think you would feel like. Of course, thinking, feeling doesn't matter. Imagine what you might feel like if you achieve that. And how does that, and just think, just try to feel, wow, yeah, if I had no envy, or how would I feel if I just had purity, just pure relationships with everyone, and and allow yourself to feel it. Feel it, feel it. That can become a major impetus. Just as the negative becomes an impetus, the positive also becomes an impetus. Because what it does, it activates your brain in a way to make you realize this is really what I want. And when I do things which in some way get in the way of what I want, then I'm harming myself. So by allowing yourself to feel what it is you want, you're kind of reconditioning yourself to get more motivation and more inspiration and more clarity and intelligence to guide you to achieve that. Because you realize, if I do this, I will be so happy, so inspired, so satisfied with myself, so better able to serve Guru and Krishna, that this is really what I want. And it's always important to be connected with what you want, because Maya will always come to try to pull you towards what you don't want. What you don't want in the name of what you want, which is all those conditioned responses, instinctive responses to things that we think will make us happy, but they're not things we really want, right? You understand? So we need to connect what we really want. I really want to eat lettuce and sprouts and avocados, but my tongue wants chocolate candy bars. So if I give into the chocolate candy bar instead of the salad, while I'm eating the chocolate, I think, this is delicious. And after I finish, I think, I'm such an idiot. I should have eaten the salad. So we get a short-term benefit of a little gratification and a long-term suffering. That's just the nature of engaging against the I should, not doing what you should do. It always ends up causing some kind of regret, lamentation, or even self-hate if it's really bad. Why did I do that? I'm so stupid. I hate myself. Right? And so if we connect more with what we want to be, who we want to be, how we want to act, and make that really, really something that we look forward to. Like, I really want to do that. I really want to be that. I really want to act this way. I really want to have these qualities. I really want to work for this. It becomes important for us. Then that should becomes more easily a must, because it becomes now something that becomes more important for us, right? So this is the function of intelligence, to take you into the future, to look at what are the consequences of my actions presently, and if I change them, what would be the consequences? Now, a few weeks ago, it was about 3 weeks ago or so, or 3 to 4, 3.5 weeks ago, when I was in Germany, we gave some talks on values versus emotions. And it's exactly what I'm saying now. When you connect with what you want as a devotee, what you want in connection to what your spiritual master wants for you, what Krishna wants for you, what is the right thing, beyond just what you're feeling for that chocolate candy, or feeling like attacking a person who attacked you, or feeling like giving up because it's too hard. When you elevate yourself beyond emotions which are not connected to what you want, and you start connecting to what you want, which are your values, which are your Krishna conscious values, then you become much, much happier. So that's what we're talking. That's what a should becomes a must. If you connect with those things which are of ultimate importance for you in Krishna consciousness. And then visualize and try to feel what it would be like to have achieved those now. Then you'll feel very happy, you'll feel very inspired. I went to a seminar and they told me about an exercise. We didn't do it, but it's a very interesting exercise. You focus on something, you could pretend you could do this in your own life. It's a drama exercise where you act a part. That you act out something that hasn't happened yet, that you want to have happened. So this was, I was told about this. It was a workshop on finding your dharma. I don't know what they called it. I think they called it life directions, where they help you find out what it is that's most important for you in your life. And they do an exercise after that after you've gone through many exercises and connected with it, and really, now you've connected major goals, major plans, how you're going to do this. You walk around the room, everyone walks around the room, and this would be fun to do in our temples also. You walk around the room as if it was 5 years later, and you're talking to people about who you are 5 years later based on your goals. So let's say you want in 5 years to be teaching Bhakti Shastri in Mayapur. So then when you walk around, you would be telling everybody, they'd say, oh, I haven't seen you in 5 years, what happened? Oh, well, I went to Mayapur, I did the Bhakti Shastri, then I did the Bhakti Vaibhava, then I did Teacher Training 1, then I did Teacher Training 2. And I really got into it, I really put myself into it. I became one of the top students. And then I did the teacher training for the Bhakti Shastri. Then I went back to Australia and I started teaching Bhakti Shastri there in the ashram. And then they started calling me to other temples because they needed Bhakti Shastri teachers. Then we developed a Bhakti Shastri course online. And so you would and then by talking about it, you reinforce, yeah, this is what I want to do, because you feel that this is, by talking about it, you just feel good, and you feel like this is really what I should be doing. Does that make sense? Yes, makes sense to me. And if it makes sense to me, I think it makes sense to you. Mm-hmm. Right? It's really it's another way of looking at this. If you wanted to get excited about something, what could you get excited about? What about it would excite you? How does it make you feel? How would it affect people? So you think of all these things. Because you can't just pray, just pray. Why don't you okay, I'm going to pray. What should I pray for? No. What excites you? Where do you want to go in your life? That's what you want to pray for. What's getting in the way? You want to pray to overcome that. It's got to be more and more clear. Now, I know a lot of you listening to this are clear, and you don't pray, and that's a problem. You should bring your prayers into your goals, because prayers are really goals that you're sharing with Krishna. And when you share things with Krishna, it empowers them, it energizes them. This is what I want, this is what I need. Think about it. You're praying for something, and because you're praying for it, it focuses your consciousness on it. And as your consciousness is focused on it, you're less likely to get deviated during your day into things which pull you away from your goals. And it's like a common problem, is people have goals, but if you look at their day, they're not really doing much, if anything, to get closer to their goals. They're getting pulled around by what they get pulled around by. And so when you have a goal, you have to be focused. You have to give it priority. You have to give it energy. And when you pray, it energizes it. It not only energizes it, but it prioritizes it. It increases your focus. Oh, Krishna, please help me do this. As you're praying for it, the tendency for you to try to do it is going to be stronger, because now it's in the forefront. So even if you think you're clear and your whys are clear, but that should be incorporated into prayer, because it'll strengthen that. Mm-hmm. Usually we just get what we tolerate. The difference in people is their standards. It's a difference between should and must. You know? So yeah. So another way of looking at this is standards. You know, like, what are you settling for? You know, it's good to have high standards as long as you don't go crazy when you don't achieve them. That's just a more of a psychological weakness. But we should have high standards, and it's okay that we don't achieve them, because it's better to not achieve something high than to achieve something low. I mean, if you know, some people won't think that way. You know, if some people make goals which are easy to achieve just so they can feel good that they've achieved them, even though it's not really what they want, which is not smart. But it's better to shoot for very high goals and fall short than shoot for very low goals and achieve them. So, you know, it goes back to the question, what do you want to be in Krishna consciousness? How do you want to serve? How is that aligned with your nature? What characteristics, what qualities that really inspire you? What devotees inspire you? What qualities do they have? And you connect with that, you meditate on that. It becomes like a daily prayer process for you. This is what I want to be. I'm at a certain standard, but I want higher standards. Well, what are those standards? What standards inspire you? Often if you look at the devotees that inspire you, then you just have to ask, well, what is it about them that inspires me? And then you'll realize, well, there's certain qualities they have. And then you put two and two together and say, it's actually those qualities that inspire me. I mean, they inspire me because they have the qualities that inspire me. So what are those qualities? You see? And then you realize, oh, these qualities, these are the qualities I want. And then you can begin to pray to Krishna. Hopefully the should will become the must. No, I need to have these. This is really important. I need to be this. And oftentimes we can say, if we haven't achieved something, or whether it be a certain quality or externally a goal, or character, or way of behavior, or we're not coming closer to achieving it, we're not working on it, it's not happening, we can conclude it's probably because I really don't want it. It's probably a should, not a must, because anything that's a must, you'll gradually get closer to. At least you'll think about it enough that you'll start to understand that you're not there yet and that you need to be there yet, which is really a first step. And gradually you'll understand Krishna will guide you more and more how to achieve it. So that's important to understand. Does that make sense to you? That if I'm not really, really focused on it, it's probably more a should, or somewhere between a should and a must, and not a must yet. So, getting from the should to the must. So, then another interesting idea is look at, you can look at if you're not sure, well, what are my standards, what are my goals? Well, look at what you do every day. And so what you do every day is what will bring you to what you achieve. So if you want to achieve something, then do you have daily rituals, daily practices that will help you achieve it? I want to be a writer. Well, do you write every day? I want to be better in marketing. Well, do you study marketing? I want to be better in whatever it is. I want to be more humble. Well, what are you doing are you studying the topic of humility? Are you looking at yourself, analyzing where you're not humble? Are you looking for opportunities to serve? Something you can do every day, that's what you become. So that's, again, it's a specific actions you can take to achieve what you want to take. And maybe those actions are difficult and you need to pray to Krishna. Krishna, please empower me so I can do these things every day. I know to chant good rounds I need to get up at a certain time. Krishna, please help me. Help me get up at this time. I need to do this every day. And so if you do it every day, your rounds will get better. That's just how it works. Yes, because it's anything you do every day with focus and attention and effort will bring you closer to your result. So again, it goes back to the first point. Don't just pray in laziness. Pray in clearness and pray with action. So you're attempting every day to achieve what it is that you're praying for, even though you may know that you can't achieve it on your own. But that's the whole point. Your actions are prayers in themselves. You're showing Krishna, this is what I want. That's the idea. That's, pray like everything depends on God. Act like everything depends on you. They go together. And then you want to hold yourself to those standards. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. We went 1 hour and 5 minutes and 22 seconds. So you've got 5-minute bonus here, but I think maybe the first few minutes were a little shaky. Okay, so I hope it's clear, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And yes, we will have class tomorrow, and yes, on Monday. I'm in Alachua, so I'm stable. I'm going to be here. Today is August, 7th? So I'm going to be here for 12 more days. So I'm going to be stable. Wow, no airplanes. I'm going to be stable for 12 days. So it'll be quite a productive time for me, where I can finish the online course and other things. Okay? So, everyone is apparently happy with what they heard, satisfied. If you have any questions, then let's take them tomorrow, because you have none now. I mean, if something comes to mind tomorrow, or in between today and tomorrow, then you can ask a question, and I want to continue on the topic of prayer. I'll have to find that document in Srila Prabhupada. I guess maybe it was better we spoke about this today. I think it was a good topic. And I think you could listen to this again. It'll go up on Ustream and eventually on the website. Actually, it's going to be on Ustream shortly. So thank you for listening. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.